In the past, I've been asked what is considered high proof. Well, this in and of itself is kind of a hard question to answer. It's kind of like the question of what's the best bourbon for, say, a beginner or for somebody who drinks whiskey already. What kind of gift would I get them? The thing to understand is, what is proof? Now, I'm not going to go into that again because I've already had a video on what is proof. So I'll link that here and down in the descriptions for you to check out so that you can understand how they proof whiskey and the details on that. But what we need to know is this: bourbon cannot be distilled at anything higher than 160 proof. And then it cannot be barreled at any higher than 125 proof. And then when bottled, it cannot be less than 80 proof. With that said, you would think that 80 proof would be the lowest, and well, 125 would be the highest proof that you would find. But that's not actually the case. Whiskey actually does lose proof over time. But that's not actually always the case either. Depending on where they actually store it and how long they store it in the rickhouse, that can actually change the proof. Over time, like I said, it does lose proof. But if they store it higher in the rickhouse, then it actually can gain a little bit of proof over time. If it's lower in the rickhouse, it'll have the opposite effect and actually lose some of that alcohol content. Also, at the time of bottling, they can add a little bit of water to change the proof or even change the flavor profile to their liking when it's being bottled. And adding that water will lower the proof. These are just some of the facts of proof. There's no changing that. Nothing can be done differently. It does actually solve that mystery of why we can have proof that's well over 125 proof. I know I've seen and even had some that are over 140 proof, but those are pretty far and few between. So with all that said, you would think that 80 proof being the lowest that you can actually buy and 140 being the highest on average of what you would see, not too many are above that 140 proof. You take the average of that and you would think, well, anything over 110, which is the median, would be considered high proof. But yet again, that's not actually the case at all either. The reason I say this is because there is a thing called that whiskey hug, or the burn that you get from that proof. I've actually had some whiskeys that were considerably higher proof. 138, I think, was one that I had that did not have that burn like you would think 104 or 138 proof would have. But I've also had some that were in the 80, 90 range that felt like it was a lot hotter than it actually was. And all this is due to the flavor profile and your own flavors, your own understanding of these notes and flavors and proof that you develop over time. I've got two examples here. I've got one, and this was one I bought when we were in Colorado. This is a port cask. So this was taken from an oak barrel all by itself and put into one that had a port wine in it for a short amount of time. I'm not sure how long it was actually in that, but this one actually measures at 114 proof. This one actually tastes pretty hot. And usually my range is between 90 and 110 that I really, really enjoy. That one seemed pretty hot. Then I've got an Old Forester that's 86 proof. Well, it also drinks a lot hotter than 86 proof. So the determining factor has nothing to do with the actual proof of the bourbon itself, but it does. There's other contributing factors, but mostly it's your own taste profile. It's how you perceive the proof within that flavor profile. So I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but proof, much like the flavor profiles of each bourbon or Scotch or Irish or rye, that's actually more determined by you than it is by that number on the bottle. It's subjective, just like so many other things. So my suggestion to you is that if you do have a bourbon or buy a bourbon that you think is over that really hot range, don't just scratch it off your list because you think it's too hot. Try it. You might be surprised at the flavors you get from it, and that whiskey hug, that tightness, that burn that you get may not be near as bad as you think it's going to be. And honestly, it's kind of a mindset too. If you think it's going to be hot, it's probably going to be hot. One other suggestion I would have would be that if it is too hot, maybe save it. You know, you don't have to finish it. Save it, come back to it later. You might be surprised that that hug you get is not as bad as you thought it was the first time you had it. Or if you still aren't really into it, you can always gift it to another friend that does enjoy those higher proofs. I'm sure that friend would greatly appreciate it. And if you have any that are too hot, you can always send them to me. I have no problem accepting whiskey as a gift. Trust me, I got plenty to enjoy myself, so one more won't hurt. It's what I tell my wife anyway. She doesn't believe me, but that's what I tell her. So, well, with that said, I want to thank you all for joining me for another video. I hope you learned a little bit out of this and that you enjoyed the video. Please, if you would, like and subscribe. I would like to try and get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's going to be a tall order, but I really am trying to hit some goals, and that would be great. Also, I see that there's about 90% of you that watch my videos that aren't subscribed. If you guys would subscribe, I would probably hit that 1,000 sub mark. So, yeah, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll keep the whiskey content going. I also have some other EDC coming up. So, check back with me and make sure you click that bell so that you can get reminders of when I'm actually posting videos so you can share in. Also, tell me in the comments, if you're already a current whiskey drinker, what do you think is a high proof? Because my thoughts may vary from yours, and I'm always willing to have a conversation about it. I like to know what other people think about a particular whiskey or a proof or a brand or whatever. So please share it down in the comments. And as always, long ashes and full glasses to each and every one of you, and we'll see you in the next video. Is 2:30 too early to crack a bottle of whiskey? Well, I've got another one to shoot, so I think I'm gonna crack one anyway.